Hello everyone, my name is Edu and this is Ready Go Expat. If you've watched other videos in my channel, then you probably know that I am from Brazil, and Brazil is the country where I spent most of my life. But in today's video I decided to invite a friend, Ollie, who's from Australia, but moved to Brazil in December 2020. Ollie's gonna talk about his first impressions living in Brazil as a foreigner. Ready? Go.
When I moved here, I had already lived in South America for 2 years. So I was in, if you'd listened to the last podcast, I was living in Bolivia for about 2 years. And because I had already visited Brazil 2 times before, like you hear in the news back in Australia that Brazil, it's this dangerous place, murders every day, COVID, all this sort of stuff. But it's obviously a little bit different living here. So I moved to Belo Horizonte, and like I was a bit scared to start off with because I was living in like a really quiet neighborhood. It was Sion, which is like one of the nicest places to live in Belo Horizonte. But to go to the supermarket, I had to like walk over a bridge that went past a favela. So that was a little bit scary at times. But in saying that, like nothing's ever happened to me, and like for me, Belo Horizonte was just a nice city to live in, to work in, but it didn't offer much as like, obviously because of lockdown, but it didn't offer much for me as a gringo, like seeking the kind of lifestyle that I wanted in Brazil. I really wanted to be near the beach and have access to the coast, and Belo Horizonte just didn't offer that for me.
What was challenging for you at the beginning? Like, I know you could speak Spanish. So maybe you could talk about the language, but also what other challenges did you have as a foreigner in Brazil?
Yeah, it's a really good question because I thought like I actually studied for 1.5 years at university, Spanish and Portuguese at the same time. And then obviously living in Bolivia, speaking Spanish for 2 years, I arrived in Brazil thinking like, oh yeah, my Portuguese will just come back to me. And I remember when I arrived in Sao Paulo airport, I started speaking Spanish to them and they were like, what are you talking about, dude? So that was difficult. And then I chose to live in República. And for people who don't know what República is, it's just like a massive share house. And this share house had 10 people in there, which I didn't know when I first moved in. I thought it was like 5 or 6. Anyway, it ended up being 10 people with 3 dogs and a cat. And it was okay for a little while, but the reason I chose to live there is because I wanted to surround myself with Portuguese speakers. But like I quickly realized that my Portuguese was terrible. I couldn't really like connect with them on a deeper level. And because I was working in English, teaching in English, it gave me some opportunities to speak to them and get to know them. But I've definitely found the language barrier, the culture as well. Like I had never lived in a big house with people not from, Australia or not from England or the States before. So it is different. It's not a negative way. It's not a negative thing, but it is different living with people from a different country than you. I use dating apps and I use Instagram to practice writing and reading. And then I have a lot of Instagram followers to practice listening. So I practice a lot of like, I don't know, I'm getting technically the receptive skills, like listening and reading and that. But like, I don't have many opportunities to practice speaking because the 2 people I live with are fluent in English. And it's just more comfortable for me. I guess I'm taking the easier way out. And I have class 2 times a week in Portuguese. But you'll be happy to know that I went on a date last Sunday, all in Portuguese. And you can have awkward moments, but it's a challenge, and I kind of like the challenge that like, you throw yourself in the deep end and just see what happens, right? I mean, when I first got the car, I was like, holy hell, this car is so big because I got a big car because I had like a lot of things, and yeah, when I first got in the car and drove away, I was like, what the hell am I doing? And then like in the morning, I woke up, I had to teach, and then it was like 10:30. So I took off, like I left the house, and I followed the police like for, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes doing the speed limit. And I was just shocked to notice how many people were like just speeding past us at like ridiculous speeds. And like they'll be going 130 and then all of a sudden they'll slam on the brakes because there's a speed camera there. I can show you around the back there. Is basically I've packed up my life and I'm on my way to Rio de Janeiro. So I've been going through the rolling hills of Belo Horizonte. It's been perfect, and it's been a little bit scary at times because I don't drive on this side of the road. We drive on the other side in Australia, and in fact I haven't driven for 2 years, so it's been a little bit at times, but overall it's been a good journey. It's automatic as well, so I paid a little bit of extra for that just because, you know, like Brazil is hilly enough, so I think that I needed to get the automatic car. It was a good experience, and I think like the drive from BH down, like when you reach kind of like the top of Rio and you come down through the mountains, it's an absolutely gorgeous drive. Beautiful. And then when you get into Rio, you're just like, oh my God, there are so many roads, so many different lanes and people crisscrossing and coming in and out. So yeah, you need to be brave to drive in Rio, I think.
What are two things that you love and two things that you hate or dislike about living in Brazil?
Good question. That's a really good question. So I guess like, let's start off with like the two things that I love. So I like the coast. I think like the coast, the beaches, and the natural beauty of like nature. There's lots of the Costa Verde, like kind of like near Rio down towards Paraty, is absolutely gorgeous. So I like the fact that there's lots of, you know, different, I was gonna say natural resources, natural like parks and stuff like that. So you've got the beach to one side, and then if you drive a little bit inland, you've got like a waterfall or I forgot the name, national park.
Yeah.
The second thing that I like, and I'm surprised with this because the last time I came here, or the first time in 2018, I hated Brazilian food. Hated it. And obviously there's, you know, some things that I probably would choose not to eat because I think it's really heavy. So I don't like the fried food like coxinha or anything like that, like that's really fatty. But I do like feijão tropeiro. Do you know what that is?
Yes, of course. It's amazing.
Obviously.
Yeah.
It's from Minas Gerais, and I fell in love with it when I went to Ouro Preto. And like every time I would order Uber Eats, and I feel like Brazilian, I always get that. So I love the food. Açaí here is also very nice. So the food and like nature are the two things that I really like. And obviously, like when it comes to things that you hate, that I hate, like not hate, but I find uncomfortable. Obviously, like you need to be like aware of your personal safety. I was talking to one of my friends actually from Rio, and we were discussing about like whether if Rio was as safe as, you know, a European city, you know, relative to a European city, it would be the best city in the world. And I couldn't agree more. Like it is the most beautiful city that I've ever seen, like from a view. And if like safety went along with that, then it would be the best city in the world. Going back to something that I love, actually, I love the diversity of fruit that you have here. Like you just have ridiculous amounts of fruit. Like you have 12 different types of mango, and we only really have one or two. So like the fruit that you can buy here in South America, in Brazil, is phenomenal.